Advanced Taxation. Chapter 1. Tax Administration. Contents: 1. Purpose. 2. Introduction to tax administration. 3. Communication with clients. 4. Communication with tax authority. 5. Communication with other stakeholders. 6. Client documentation and records. 7. Chapter review. 8. Worked examples. Tax administration. Subtopic 1.1, Section 1.1, Purpose. After studying this chapter, readers should be able to A. Understand the provisions of the Federal Inland Revenue Service Amendment Act 2007, the compositions and functions of the Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. B. Establish powers conferred on the Federal Inland Revenue Service regarding administration and enforcement of various tax laws. C. Appreciate the powers and objectives of the service's inquiries. D. Identify various types of assessment. E. Know filing, assessment, and collection procedures. And F. Know the code of ethics expected of revenue officials. Section 1.1. Introduction to Tax Administration. Presently, there are 3 tiers of government charged with the administration of tax in Nigeria: the federal, state, and local government. Each tier of government has its own tax authority created by federal laws. The authorities include: 1. Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. The administration of taxation on the profits of incorporated companies is vested in the Federal Inland Revenue Services (FIRS), whose management board is known as the Federal Inland Revenue Service Board (FIRSB). Composition of the FIRSB. The Federal Inland Revenue Service Board comprises A. Executive Chairman, who shall be a person within the service to be appointed by the President. B. 6 members with relevant qualifications and expertise to be appointed by the President to represent each of the 6 geopolitical zones. C. The representative of the Attorney General of the Federation. D. The Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria or his representative. E. A representative of the Minister of Finance, not below the rank of a director. F. The Chairman of the Revenue, Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission or his representative, who shall be any of the commissioners representing the 36 states of the Federation. G. The Group Managing Director of the NNPC or his representative, who shall not be below the rank of a Group Executive Director of the corporation or its equivalent. H. The Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service or his representative, not below the rank of Deputy Comptroller General. I. Registrar General of the Corporate Affairs Commission or his representative, not below the rank of a director. And J. The Chief Executive Officer of the National Planning Commission or his representative, not below the rank of a director. The members of the board, other than the executive chairman, shall be part-time members. Also, the chairman and other members of the board, other than ex-officio members, shall each hold office for a term of 4 years, renewable once only, and on such terms and conditions as may be specified in the letter of appointment. Powers and functions of FIRSB. The board shall A. Provide the general policy guidelines relating to the functions of the service. B. Manage and superintend the policies of the service on matters relating to the administration of the revenue assessment, collection, and accounting system under this Act or any enactment or law. C. Review and approve the strategic plans of the service. D. Employ and determine the terms and conditions of service, including disciplinary measures of the employees of the service. E. Stipulate remuneration, allowances, benefits, and pensions of staff and employees in consultation with the National Salary, Income, and Wages Commission. And F. Do such other things which, in its opinion, are necessary to ensure the efficient performance of the functions of the service under the Act. Duties of the Secretaries to the FIRSB. Section 12. There shall be a Secretary to the Board who shall be appointed by the Board within the FIRS, whose duties are to 1. Issue notice of meetings of the Board. 2. Keep records of the proceedings of the Board. And 3. Carry out such duties as the Executive Chairman of the Board may from time to time direct. In order to assist the FIRS in the performance of its duties, provision is made in Section 9 for the setting up of a committee of the Board, to be known as the Technical Committee. Composition of the Technical Committee. The Technical Committee shall consist of A. The Executive Chairman of FIRS as Chairman of the Committee. B. All Directors and Heads of Departments of the FIRS. C. The Legal Advisor to FIRS. And D. Secretary to FIRSB. The Technical Committee may co-opt from the service such staff as it may deem necessary for the effective performance of its functions under the Act. Functions of the Technical Committee, Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. A. To consider all tax matters that require professional and technical expertise and make recommendations to the Board. B. To advise the Board on any aspect of the functions and powers of the FIRS. And C. To attend to such other matters as may from time to time be referred to it by the Board. Section 1.1.2 Joint Tax Board JCB. Section 86 of the Personal Income Tax Act Cap P8 LFN 2004 as amended established the Joint Tax Board JCB. Composition. The JTB comprises A. The Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service Board, who doubles as the Chairman of the JTB. B. One member from each state, being a person experienced in income tax matters, nominated either by name or office from time to time by the Commissioner charged with responsibility for matters relating to income tax of the state in question. C. The Secretary, who is not a member of the Board and is appointed by the Federal Civil Service Commission. And D. The Legal Advisor of the FIRS acts as the legal advisor to the JTB. Quorum. 7 members or their representative shall constitute a quorum. That's Section 86, subsection 6. Functions of the JTB. The Board shall A. Exercise the powers or duties conferred on it by the PITA and other Act. PITA is Personal Income Tax Act. B. Advise the federal government on request in respect of double taxation arrangement with any other country. C. Advise the federal government on request in respect of rates of capital allowances and other taxation matters having effect throughout Nigeria in respect of any proposed amendment to PITA. D. Promote uniformity both in the application of PITA and in the incidence of tax on individuals throughout Nigeria. And E. Impose its decision on matters of procedure and interpretation of PITA on any state for purposes of confirming to agree procedures or interpretations. Section 1.1.3 State Board of Internal Revenue. Composition. A. The Executive Chairman of the State Service, who shall be a person experienced in taxation, appointed by the State Governor from within the State Service. B. The Directors and Head of Department within State Service. C. A Director from the State Ministry of Finance. D. 3 persons nominated by the Commissioner of Finance in the state on their personal merit. E. A legal advisor to the State Service. And F. The Secretary to the State Service, who shall be an ex officio member. Functions and powers. A. The State Board is responsible for the assessment and collection of pay-as-you-earn payee and other personal income tax. B. Ensuring the effectiveness and optimum collection of all taxes and penalties due to government. C. Doing all such things as may be deemed necessary and expedient for the assessment and collection of and account for all amounts so collected in a manner to be prescribed by the Commissioner. D. Making recommendations where appropriate to the JTB on tax policy, tax reforms, tax legislation, tax treaties, and exemptions as may be required from time to time. E. Generally controlling the management of the State Service on matters of policy, subject to the provision of the law setting up the State Service. F. Appointing, promoting, transferring, and imposing discipline on employees of the State Service. Technical Committee of SBIR. Composition. A. Executive Chairman as Chairman. B. All Directors and Heads of Departments of the State Internal Revenue Service. C. The Legal Advisor to the Board. D. The Board Secretary. Functions. A. Consider all matters that require professional and technical expertise and make recommendations to the Board. B. Advise the Board on its power and duties. C. Attend to such other matters that may from time to time be referred to it. Section 1.1.4 Joint State Revenue Committee. According to the Act, each state of the Federation should have a Joint State Revenue Committee comprising A. The Chairman of the State Board of Internal Revenue, who acts as Chairman of the Committee. B. The Chairman of the Local Government Revenue Committee. C. A representative of the Bureau of Local Government Affairs from the rank of Director and above. D. A representative of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission as observer. E. State Sector Commander of the RSC as observer. F. Legal advisor of the State Internal Revenue Service. And G. Secretary to the committee, usually a staff of the SIRS. Functions of the Joint State Revenue Committee. The committee is expected to A. Implement decisions of the Joint Tax Revenue Service. B. Advise the Joint Tax Revenue Service, the state and local government on revenue matters. C. Harmonize tax administration in the state. D. Enlighten the public generally on state and local government revenue matters. And E. Execute such other functions as may from time to time be assigned by the Joint Tax Revenue Service. Section 1.1.5. The Local Government Tax Authority. Local Government Revenue Committee. Section 85 D and E of Personal Income Tax Act Cap P8 LFN 2004. A. Composition. The Revenue Committee shall comprise 1. The Supervisor for Finance as Chairman. 2. 3 local government councillors as members. And 3. 2 other persons experienced in revenue matters to be nominated by the chairman of the local government on their personal merits. B. Functions. 1. The Revenue Committee shall be responsible for the assessment and collection of all taxes, fines, and rates under its jurisdiction, and shall account for all amounts so collected in a manner to be prescribed by the chairman of the local government. 2. The Revenue Committee shall be autonomous of the local government treasury department and shall be responsible for the day-to-day administration of the department, which form its operational arm. C. Taxing power. Under the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, only the federal government has the exclusive power to legislate and impose stamp duties and taxes on incomes, profits, and capital gains, both for individuals and corporate bodies, by way of act. It exercises the powers through the Joint Tax Revenue Service. Prior to 1993, various states imposed one form of tax or the other by way of edict. The promulgation of the Personal Income Tax Act 104 of 1993 repealed all such edicts and replaced them with a uniform structure throughout the Federation. Whilst the power to impose taxes on individual and corporate bodies is under the exclusive list of the Constitution, that is, exclusive to the federal government, the collection of the taxes is under the concurrent list, which means that the power to collect the various taxes has been split between the 3 tiers of government. Act 21 of 1993. Section 1.1.6 Limitation of Tax Administration. The following are constraints to effective tax administration in Nigeria. A. Poor public enlightenment. B. Inadequate funding of tax authorities. C. Dearth of qualified and/or experienced tax officials at the state and local government tiers of government. D. Tax evasion. E. Improper use of tax consultants. F. Lack of willpower on the part of personnel of tax authorities, that is, administrative ineffectiveness. G. Loopholes in the law. And H. Poor governance. Subtopic 2. Communication with clients. There is always the need for timely communication with clients on matters relating to appointment and acceptance of offer to act as tax consultants, as well as updates on representation to the tax authorities. Taxpayers are of two categories: A. Individual taxpayers and B. Corporate taxpayers. Individual taxpayers file tax returns to State Board Internal Revenue Service (SBIR), while corporate taxpayers, usually companies, file return with the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS). It is therefore important that when appointing tax consultants, clients must specify the scope of assignment in the letter of engagement. The tax consultant must also be guided in accepting any job and understand their obligations as tax agents, liaising between the client, tax authorities, and other third parties. Section 2.1. Appointment of a tax consultant. A. Appointment of a tax consultant is usually communicated via letter of engagement emanating from the taxpayer to the tax consultant. B. A typical letter of appointment is shown below. Illustration 1.1. Letter of appointment as tax consultant written on the letterhead of DDB Nigeria Limited. 25 April 2009. The Managing Director, XYB Consult, 28A Jajawe, Ikeja, Lagos. Dear Sir, appointment as tax consultant. We refer to the discussion held recently with our directors on tax and related matters, and hereby confirm that management has today approved your firm's appointment as tax consultant to our company with immediate effect. Please note that the services to be rendered include tax matters of employees, directors, and the company. You are to please liaise with our financial controller, who will provide you with all necessary information and financial statements or records which you might require in the course of carrying out the assignment. We propose a meeting with you for next Wednesday, 30 April 2009 by 2 p.m. at our Ikeja head office to finalize the details. We look forward to a mutually beneficial business relationship between our company and your organization. Yours faithfully, for DDB Nigeria Limited, signed James Ikolo, Managing Director. CC, the Tax Controller, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Integrated Tax Office, Lagos. Section 2.2. Acceptance of offer as tax consultant. The acceptance of offer as tax consultant to a taxpayer is the indication of the readiness of the tax consultant to render the specific services requested and to provide other special assignments to the client from time to time. The consultant from inception should understand the nature and scope of the assignment in order to provide adequate services to the client. Issues relating to professional fees should be fully discussed at the inception of the contract of service. Acceptance of offer must be communicated in writing to each client as illustrated below. Illustration 1.2. Specimen letter of acceptance. 5 May 2009. The Managing Director, DDB Nigeria Limited. 4. Rewrite Way, Surulere, Lagos. Dear Sir, acceptance of offer as tax consultant. Your letter dated 25 April 2009 on the above subject refers. We confirm our firm's acceptance of your offer to act as tax consultant to your organization. From the content of your offer letter, we understand that we shall provide tax-related and advisory services to your company, its directors, as well as employees. We will also represent your interest with the relevant tax authorities from time to time. We shall be pleased to meet with you as scheduled. Thank you. Yours faithfully, for XYZ Consult. Signed, Apudio, Managing Director. Section 1. Subtopic 1.3 Communication with tax authorities. The tax authorities rely on documents and first-hand information provided by any taxpayer or the tax consultant. In determining the possible tax liability of the taxpayer, additional information from third parties such as banks, insurers, landlords, tenants, suppliers, customers, shareholders, registrar of companies, and other stakeholders may be required by the tax authority for assessment purposes. Under the provisions of the Federal Inland Revenue Service Amendment Act 2007 and other tax legislations, relevant tax authorities have rights to receive or demand for additional information from taxpayers and third parties on matters affecting any taxpayer. Communication with tax officials will usually cover the following: A. Registration with tax authorities for income and other taxes using standard questionnaires. B. Filing of tax returns within time limits provided by the tax laws. C. Self-assessment and objections to best of judgment (BOJ) assessment. D. Tax queries and replies. These are fully discussed as follows. Section 3.1 Registration with tax authorities. The Federal Inland Revenue Service and State Board of Internal Revenue have a standard questionnaire which are expected to be completed by taxpayers for the registration under the provision of CITA, PITA, PPTA, and other tax legislations or acts. The following details, together with CTC of incorporation documents, that is, originals to be submitted for verification, will be provided in a formal letter addressed to the chairman of the relevant tax authority in respect of every prospective taxpayer. A. Name, registration number, and date of incorporation or registration. B. The registered or residential address as applicable. C. The business address. D. Names and addresses of the directors. E. Names and addresses of the shareholders together with their shareholdings. F. Any other directorship held by the directors. G. The precise nature of business. H. Whether or not the business has any predecessors. I. The date of commencement of business. J. The accounting year end. K. Details of company secretary where applicable. L. Details of the appointed auditors and tax consultants. M. Details of appointed bankers. N. Any other information which may help the tax authority in this regard. Section 3.2 VAT registration. A vatable person or VAT agent is required to also file application for VAT registration at the nearest FIRS office. The application will be supported with CTC of the registration documents. Section 3.3 Filing of tax returns. Any company registered in Nigeria must submit relevant information to the tax authority within 6 months of the accounting year end. A new company must file its tax returns within 18 months of incorporation or 6 months after its first accounting period, whichever is earlier. An individual must also provide relevant information in the specified format, that is Form A, at the beginning of every assessment year. Filing of tax returns for individuals and corporate persons are done using prescribed self-assessment forms with supporting documents. The following are usually forwarded to FIRS as tax returns within 18 months of incorporation of the company or 6 months after the end of the accounting year end, whichever is earlier. A. Signed audited financial statements together with a covering letter from the tax consultant. B. Capital allowances and income tax computation. C. Self-assessment forms for income and education tax. Section 3.4 Due dates for payment of tax. Payment of income tax is due 2 months from the filing date in case of a lump sum payment or in case of instrumental payment, as may be approved by the FIRS, not exceeding 3 installments. In this case, evidence of first instrumental payment must be submitted along with the tax returns. Payment may be delayed until first working day of the following calendar year for companies with financial year end dates between January and 30 June. Section 3.5 Self-assessment for individuals. Tax returns for individuals are submitted at the beginning of every assessment year. The self-assessment form, that is Form A, is completed stating various sources of income and allowances or reliefs claimable. The assessment forms must be signed and dated by the taxpayer. It is relevant to note here that tax payments to both FIRS and SIRS are now made via e-payments at designated banks. The e-payment has therefore reduced the level of written communication with the tax authorities. Best of judgment assessment. Where the taxpayer fails to file self-assessment forms and pay the normal tax within the time limits specified under the law, BOJ assessment is raised on the affected taxpayer. A valid objection must be raised within 30 days of service of such notice, stating valid grounds of objection. Illustration 1.3. Objection to BOJ assessment. ABC Limited is a trading company which has been operating in Nigeria for over 10 years. The company is duly registered for both income tax and VAT and has been filing returns regularly. Unfortunately, the company's account for the year ended 31 December 2007 could not be signed by the directors until 1 August 2008, when the managing director returned from his medical trip abroad. A BOJ assessment for 4.5 million naira was served on the company with date of service of 30 July 2008. The tax consultant filed and paid for self-assessment on 2 August 2008 as follows. Income tax 2.75 million naira. Education tax 260,000 naira. The tax authority imposed a late return penalty (LRP) of 25,000 on the company thereafter. Required, as a tax consultant with many years of experience, write a suitable letter of objection to the BOJ assessment to the tax office. Suggested solution. 5 August 2008. The Tax Controller, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Integrated Tax Office, No Shaking Way, Ikeja. Dear Sir, ABC Limited, TIN number 00010002149. Objection to BOJ assessment number YC/A/110/2008/1 dated 30 July 2008 for 4.5 million naira. We write to raise a formal objection to the above quoted BOJ assessment of 4.5 million naira raised on our client, Messrs. ABC Limited, for 2008 assessment year. Please consider the following grounds of objection. A. Our client has been a good corporate taxpayer and has been meeting its tax obligations over the years. B. The company's accounts were audited on time but could not be signed by the directors until the end of July 2008 due to ill health of the managing director. Photocopies of his medical report for treatment received in Toronto are attached for your perusal. C. The BOJ assessment was served on the company few days ago, just as we paid the self-assessment. D. Tax returns and self-assessment payments for income tax, education tax, and LRP were submitted to your office on 2nd August 2008. Please see copies attached. We will therefore be grateful if you would please discharge the BOJ assessment of 4.5 million naira on compassionate ground and substitute with the self-assessment returns for 2.75 million based on the income tax computation. We sincerely thank you for your cooperation. Yours faithfully for XYZ Consult, Peter Zone, for Managing Director. Section 1.4 Tax Queries and Replies. Queries. Tax queries emanate from desk examination of tax returns by tax officials. Returns are examined, asking for supporting documents in order to ascertain whether or not the taxpayer income has not been understated, reliefs not overstated, or that the expenses deducted from the income for the period were wholly, exclusively, necessarily, and reasonably incurred in the production of those incomes. Tax queries may not follow any specific pattern, but tax practitioners must have a better understanding of the taxpayer's operations and possess adequate technical know-how with relevant field experience. The following issues may be raised from relevant documents collected or verified by tax officials in order to eliminate any private or capital expenditure from the tax returns and also guide against tax avoidance to some reasonable extent. A. Whether there exists supporting documents for assets, liabilities, income, and expenditure in the name of the taxpayer. B. Whether private expenses were included in the accounts. C. Whether relevant documents such as certificate of acceptance, input VAT, invoices, supporting invoices, premium claims, invoices on administration and operating expenses, etc., agreed with amounts stated in the account. D. Whether payee deducted from salaries and withholding taxes from supplies or professional fees were promptly remitted. E. Whether capital expenditure in form of cost of increase in capital or incorporation expenses, general bad debt, and depreciation have been written back to profit. F. Whether losses and carry forward rules have been adequately observed. Replies. When replying to tax queries, tax practitioners should endeavor to be more ethical and use subtle language as much as practicable. The consultant should avoid quoting decided cases or tax laws when one is not too sure that circumstances or scenarios are similar. Apart from the above, the consultant should make use of relevant supporting documents from both the client's office and his working papers. Third-party documents not relevant to the queries raised should not be forwarded as an attachment. Finally, the tax consultant should not be seen to be invoiced in any practices which could be construed to be tax evasion, fraud, or outright criminality. Section 1.5. Communication with other stakeholders. Communication with other stakeholders is specifically required to gather additional information on the client's business. Section 5.1. Communication with former tax consultants and auditors. To satisfy professional ethics, an incoming tax consultant is required to liaise with the former consultant and/or auditor previously in charge of the client's tax matters. In these circumstances, the incoming consultant needs to A. Confirm whether or not there exist any professional reasons why they should not accept the appointment. B. Obtain relevant documents, audited accounts, tax computation, and background information on the new assignment. C. Plan the assignment very well. Section 5.2. Communication with others. The tax consultant may also need to obtain further information in respect of the client from the following: A. Bankers for bank statements in support of bank charges and to vouch certain entries. B. Insurers for premium paid. C. Pension fund administrator for pension fund certificates to support exemptions. D. Other professionals, that is, lawyers for legal advice. The tax consultant must obtain written permission from the client in support of third parties' evidence. One should exercise the duty of reasonable care in making use of any third-party evidence. Section 1.6. Client documentation and records. After accepting the offer to act as tax consultant to any taxpayer, necessary documentation and information should be put in place. Section 1.6.1. Documentation or information to be maintained or provided by clients. The companies, that is client officers, should have maintained the following documents or records. A. Certificate of incorporation. B. Certified true copy, that is CTC, of Memorandum and Article of Association, MEMAT. C. CTC of Forms on Directors, that is CAC 7. Allotment of shares, CAC 2. Appointment of Secretary, CAC 2.1. and Notice of Registered Office, CAC 3. D. Certificate of increase in share capital, including stamp duties, registration fees, board resolutions, etc. E. Contracts, rents, and other agreements. F. Financial matters. 1. Signed audited financial statements. 2. Books of accounts, ledgers, trial balance, hard and soft copies. 3. Fixed asset register and title documents. 4. Accounts and procedural manual. 5. Payments vouchers, receipts, etc. 6. Banking and cash transaction documents. 7. Monthly payroll and directors' emoluments. G. Correspondence with tax authorities and other third parties. H. Minutes of Board of Directors and Annual General Meetings, AGM. I. Tax and other payment receipts, assessments, forms, tax clearance certificates, etc. J. Other financial and non-financial documents, including appointment letters. The above should be kept intact in a safe place because they may be required for signing by the revenue authorities during registration, filing of assessment, and tax examinations. Section 6.2. Documentation or data to be maintained by the tax consultant. The following documentation or data, among others, will be maintained by the tax consultant in respect of each client. The documentation which will either be kept in the permanent file or forwarded to the relevant tax office will include the following. A. CTC of incorporation documents, that is Certificate of Incorporation. MEMAT, Directors, Shareholders, Secretary and Share Capital Details, etc. B. Engagement letters. C. Company auditor details, if different from that of tax consultant. D. Audited financial statements, capital allowances, income tax, education tax, and other computations. E. Trial balance, detailed analysis and schedules on the financial statement. F. Correspondence with the client, tax authorities, and third parties. G. Registration documents in respect of income tax, value-added tax, that is VAT, payee, withholding tax, and other levies. H. Records of billings and outstanding. I. Other documents, financials and non-financials. Section 1.7. Chapter Review. In this chapter, readers must have learnt about the following. A. Provisions relating to the establishment of the organs of tax administration, their compositions and functions. B. The extensive power of the Revenue Service to make inquiries in writing and by physical presence in the taxpayer's place of business. The assistance of police may be used by the Revenue Service in carrying out its duties. Anyone that obstructs tax officers in carrying out their official duties shall be guilty of an offence and liable to a fine or imprisonment, or both fine and imprisonment. C. Power of the Revenue Service to assess taxpayers on turnover and to disregard transactions that can be considered artificial or fictitious. D. The procedures of the revenue, especially on assessment and collection. E. Monthly tax revenue reconciliation at the zonal and at the headquarters. F. Ethical issues as regards taxpayers and tax matters on non-disclosure to unauthorized persons. Oaths of secrecy in the civil service and a body of code of ethics for civil servants. G. The legality of the action of tax administrators and the extent of their limits. Section 1.8 Worked examples. Questions. 1. James Bond Nigeria Limited, based in Ibadan, was incorporated in January 2012 as a producer of wallets and other safekeeping products. The first set of audited accounts was for the year ended 31 December 2012, and it was filed by Messrs. F.J. Yaba & Co. to the relevant tax authority together with the tax computations. Upon examination of the tax returns, the Inspector of Taxes raised some queries relating to the following expenses: 1. Bank charges. 2. Electricity expenses. 3. Hotel expenses. 4. Cost of equipment. 5. Building costs. 6. Purchase of raw materials. 7. Salaries and wages. 8. Directors' fees. 9. Business insurances. And 10. Rent. Required. Assuming you are the Inspector of Taxes, do a letter to the tax consultant requesting for the relevant documents evidencing the various expenses noted above. Question 2. An Ibadan-based textile manufacturer, Tax Venture Limited, was incorporated on 1 July 2011 but commenced business in January 2013. The financial year of the company is 31 December. The board of Tax Ventures Limited has just appointed your firm as the company's external auditors, and you have been duly informed. Assume that the necessary audited accounts have been prepared by your firm in accordance with the provision of the relevant laws. Required. Draft a letter addressed to the appropriate tax authorities stating the following: A. The audited financial statements attached in accordance with the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act Cap C20 LFN 2004 as amended. B. Relevant year of assessment. And C. Any other information required to accompany the first set of returns as an agent of Tax Ventures Nigeria Limited. Question 3. iService Limited was incorporated as a limited liability company on 25 February 2012. The major object clause of the company, as stated in its memorandum of association, is to carry out iServices generally. It has an authorized share capital of 1 million naira ordinary shares, of 1 naira fully allotted to the 3 subscribers who are also the founding directors as stated in the incorporation document presented to you. You have just been appointed as the first tax consultant to the company, whose registered and business address is located at 22C Cross Road Lane, Idumota, Lagos. The company commenced operation at exactly 2 p.m. on Monday, 4 May 2012. Required: draft suitable letters to the appropriate tax office for income tax and VAT registration purposes. Question 4. The success achieved by Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) in meeting the revenue targets set for its integrated tax office nationwide was seen as a challenge by its state counterpart, that is State Board of Internal Revenue (SBIR). As a result, the chairman of new State Board of Internal Revenue, in a bid to increase the revenue drive from the self-employed category, announced various incentives to staff who are able to meet the target set. You have been engaged as the tax consultant to the chairman of new State Board of Internal Revenue. Required: advise the chairman of new State Board of Internal Revenue in A. Identifying constraints facing the tax authorities in the assessment and collection of taxes from self-employed taxpayers, and B. Evolving strategies for expanding the Nigerian tax net to improve tax collection from the self-employed category of taxpayers. Suggested solutions. Solution to question 1. Letterhead of the tax office. Date: 18 October 2013. The tax partner: Mr. F.J. Yaba and Co. Tolulope Street, Molete, Ibadan. Dear Sir, James Bond Nigeria Limited. Reference to the audited financial statements for the year ended 31 December 2012. We refer to the tax return filed on behalf of your clients for the year ended 31 December 2012, together with the tax computation for 2012 and 2013 years of assessment. Having examined the accounts and the accompanying schedules, it becomes highly imperative to seek for more clarification on some of the expenses incurred by your clients. To this end, we hereby request for some documents evidencing the various expenses as follows. A. Bank charges. Give details of your client's banker and provide us with all the bank statements from January to December 2012. B. Electricity expenses. Forward copies of all electricity bills for the year under review. C. Hotel expenses. All hotel bills for the year under review are needed. D. Cost of equipment. All invoices and receipts evidencing payments and delivery of the equipment to be submitted. E. Building costs. Building plan, survey plan, receipt and invoices, vouchers, certificate of occupancy, architect certificates are needed. F. Purchase of raw materials. Receipts and invoices, good received notes, way bills, and stock cards are required. G. Salaries and wages. Staff payroll, evidence of remittance of payee, and appointment letters are required. H. Directors' fees. Forward evidence of withholding tax deducted and remitted to the Board of Internal Revenue and vouchers for payment of directors' fees. I. Business insurances. Insurance policies, receipts issued by insurance companies, and claims received, if any, are to be submitted. J. Rent. Rent agreement, receipt issued by the landlord, evidence of deduction and payment of withholding tax and vouchers are required. It is our hope that you will expedite action in this regard by providing all the evidence without delay. Kindly respond to our queries within 30 days after the date of this letter. Thank you for your anticipated cooperation. Yours faithfully, for Ibadan Integrated Tax Office, J.O. Agbeloba, Inspector of Taxes. Solution to question 2. XYZ & Co. Chartered Accountant, Plot 10, Okeado Street, Ibadan. 1 October 2005. The Tax Controller, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Ibadan, Area Office, Ibadan. Dear Sir, Debtor Ventures Nigeria Limited, registration of the company for tax purposes. We wish to inform you that we have been appointed as the external auditors to the above named company, and we also have instructions to file all necessary documents with your office. Please find enclosed herewith some of the statements of affairs for the period ended December 31, 2012, 18 months, and audited financial accounts for year ended December 31, 2013. Also included are the copies of the relevant tax computation for 2013 and 2014 year of assessment. The following documents or information are supplied for record purposes. A reply to your questionnaires. B, names and addresses of directors. C, copy of the memorandum and article of association. D, copy of the certificate of incorporation, that is original available for citing. In bracket, original available for citing. E, copy of the form containing the particulars of directors duly stamped by the Corporate Affairs Commission. F, accounting year end is December 31 every year. G, letter of appointment of our firm as the external auditors and tax consultants addressed to you by our clients. H, date of commencement of business, January 2013. I, the company manufactures textiles. J, the company's registered address is 2 Ajanle Koko Street, Okeado, Ibadan. It is our hope that the accounts will be examined as early as possible to facilitate the early payment of the tax due. Thank you for your anticipated cooperation in this regard. Yours faithfully, for XYZ & Co. James Jayesimi, Managing Director. Answer to question 3A. ACC & Co. Chartered Accountant, 3 Lane Avenue, Lagos. The date is 6th of May 2012. The Tax Controller, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Idumota Integrated Tax Office, 4 Idumota, Lagos. Idumota Road, Lagos. Dear Sir, I-Service Limited with RC 105449. Application for registration for VAT purposes. We wish to register the above named company for VAT purposes. The following information or documents which will enable you open a tax file are as follows. 1. The company was incorporated on 25 February 2012. 2. The registered and business address of the company is 22C Cross Road Lane, Idumota, Lagos. 3. The company is in the business of providing eye services. 4. The company commenced business on 4 May 2012. 5. The accounting year end is 31 December each year. 6. The appointed banker is Long Time Bank Limited, 40 Idumota Road, Lagos. 7. The particulars of the shareholders are as follows. Names and the number of shares held. A. Mr. Dindi Moloko, 700,000. B. Chief Mrs. Tina Moloko, 150,000. C. Mrs. Sondai Moloko, 150,000, totaling 1 million shares. 8. The directors and their addresses are: name and address, Mr. Dindi Moloko, Chief Mrs. Tina Moloko, Mrs. Sunday Moloko, all living in 15 Moloko Way, Dolphin Estate, Ikoyi, Lagos. 9. The directors have no other directorship. 10. The appointed auditor or tax consultant is Mr. XYZ and Company. 3. Full-time Road, Ikeja, Lagos. The certified true copies CTC of the Certificate of Incorporation, Memorandum and Article of Association, Directors and Shares Allotment Forms are attached herewith. The originals of these documents will be presented to you for citing. The letter of introduction of the newly appointed auditors or tax consultants is attached for your records. Thank you for your anticipated assistance. Yours faithfully for ACC and Co. James Amadu for Managing Partners. CC the Managing Director, I Service Limited, 22 Crossroad Lane, Idumota, Lagos. Solution to question 3B. ACC and Co. Chartered Accountant, 3 Lane Avenue, Lagos. 6 May 2012. The Tax Controller, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Idumota Integrated Tax Office, 4 Idumota Road, Lagos. Dear Sir, I Service Limited. Application for VAT registration. Wish to register the above-named company for VAT purposes. The registered address of the company is 22C Crossroad Lane, Idumota, Lagos. Please find enclosed herewith a copy of the Certificate of Incorporation and a letter of appointment of the auditor. Thank you for your anticipated assistance. Yours faithfully for ACC and Co. James Amadu for Managing Director. CC the Managing Director, I Service Limited, 22C Crossroad Lane, Idumota, Lagos. Solution to question 4. ABC and Co. Chartered Accountants, 11 Edith Mohammed Street, Ojodu, Lagos. That's like the letterhead. 25th of May 2013. The Chairman, New State Board of Internal Revenue, Lagos, Nigeria. Dear Sir, Assessment and collection of tax from self-employed taxpayers. We refer to our recent appointment as consultants to New State Internal Revenue Service for the purpose of advising on the above subject and would like to comment as follows. Self-employed taxpayers are unincorporated individuals or body of individuals engaged in their own business, either as sole traders or in partnerships. Such persons include individual contractors, traders, professionals, consultants, market women, artisans, and all other entities that are not liable to tax under the Companies Income Tax Act, but under the Personal Income Tax Act. This means such persons are taxable on income accruing to them personally. All self-employed taxpayers are required to file self-assessment tax returns with the relevant state tax authorities every year. Such tax return is expected to disclose transactions relating to the individual income for the year. A. Constraints being faced by tax authority in assessing and collecting taxes from self-employed taxpayers include 1. Lack of taxpayers' data or information. There is no detailed information on or database for the self-employed in Nigeria, thus bringing them into the tax net is difficult. 2. Ineffective utilization of tax revenue. There is a general apathy to voluntary compliance with the provision of the tax laws because of the level of decay in basic infrastructure, which has always called to question the need for continued payment of tax in Nigeria. 3. Tax evasion and avoidance. It is easier for self-employed persons to evade tax than employees whose incomes are taxed at source. Also, self-employed persons have evolved several tax avoidance strategies which require anti-avoidance provisions. 4. Lack of experience and suitable qualified personnel. There is the dearth of experienced tax personnel, hence the difficulty in ascertaining the correct assessment for self-employed taxpayers. 5. Inadequate penalties or absence of enforcement. In Nigeria, the penalties for non-compliance with relevant tax authorities are too lenient to compel the self-employed to pay tax. There is also a general lack of enforcement of existing penalties. 6. Inadequate records. Most self-employed persons do not maintain records of their income and expenditure. Some also mix their business activities with their private affairs, thus making it difficult to determine the income taxable. 7. Lack of public enlightenment. Most taxpayers do not know what tax to pay, when to pay, who to pay to, where to pay, and what reliefs and allowances they are entitled to. A good tax system should be certain and easy to administer. The public should be educated in their responsibility with respect to tax at all times. 8. Level of corruption. Some tax officials collude with would-be taxpayers to defraud the government of taxes. 9. Level of poverty. Several self-employed persons are struggling to survive due to the unconducive operating environment. The society has been impoverished by the elites so much that paying tax will further impoverish the low-income earners. 10. The overdependence on oil revenue for a very long time has led to the neglect of all other non-oil revenue sources. B. Strategies for expanding the Nigerian tax net to improve tax collection drive covering the self-employed. Having enumerated the constraints facing the tax authorities in assessing and collection of taxes from the self-employed taxpayers, the following strategies can be adopted to enhance compliance by self-employed taxpayers. 1. Public enlightenment and education. The revenue should embark on aggressive publicity and education of taxpayers on the various taxes payable by all self-employed individuals. 2. Enforcement of withholding tax provision. By further encouraging companies to implement the withholding tax provision More self-employed persons who render various services to companies can be brought into the tax net. 3. Requirements for presentation of tax clearance certificates, that is TCC. By providing and insisting that TCC be produced for any form of transaction with government, more self-employed persons will be compelled to pay their taxes. 4. Stiffer penalties for non-compliance. If the consequences of failure to comply with the provisions of the tax laws are made stiffer, more taxpayers will willingly comply with the tax laws. 5. Encouragement of cooperative union. By encouraging artisans in particular to form associations through which government can reach the members, improvement in tax revenue generation from that category of self-employed persons will be achieved. 6. Effective utilization of tax revenue. Improvement in the level of basic infrastructural facilities will encourage voluntary compliance with provisions of the tax laws, as they will show that the tax revenue is being utilized effectively. 7. Promulgation of anti-avoidance provision. Making provisions to block the several loopholes in the tax law will enhance further compliance with the tax laws and increase tax revenue. 8. Use of information technology. The use of appropriate information technology that will make it difficult to evade tax will enhance tax revenue from self-employed taxpayers. 9. Investigation and Intelligence Unit. The investigation and intelligence unit of the revenue should be vibrant and effective. It is the responsibility of this unit to trace self-employed persons in the society who have not been paying their taxes. This can be done by going through the land registry and vehicle licensing offices. Information can also be obtained from banks by insisting that they should file returns of all their new customers with the revenue. 10. Engagement of experienced and qualified personnel. Employing qualified personnel and paying competitive remuneration will further enhance dedication to duty and ultimately increase tax revenue. 11. Regular amendments to the tax laws. The tax laws should be regularly updated, and the provisions should be such that are reasonable and easy to comply with. Most of the provisions of the Nigerian tax laws are outdated and make it difficult to comply with. Some of those provisions encourage tax evasion. Please do not hesitate to contact the undersigned should you require further clarifications. Yours faithfully for ABC & Co. Oki Ahmed for Managing Director. That's the end of Chapter 1. Thank you.